to leave you in doubt. I don't see what all the fuss is about. I didn't know I had to watch my tongue. Now you know that I'm a loaded gun. Yeah, you know it's true. I'm too taboo.
Stars are in light, though we would know.
Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of Revenue Hacks for 2021. I almost said 2020, still in my brain, but thank God that year is done and gone. My name is Christina Quigley. You're all very welcome today. We have a great episode lined up. Susanna's been working really hard with Tom in the background to build this over the last few weeks. It's all about personal branding. We are so excited to have Tom back with us on the show. If you haven't met us before, I'm actually a group revenue manager for a hospitality company here in Ireland, but also in the UK. And I also do consulting for tourism and hospitality specialists across the world. And we'll just do a quick round robin around the room so we can crack on and get into this, because I know this is going to be a great show. Suzanne.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Williams. I'm the Commercial Director at Journey. We're a tech and marketing agency based in Cheltenham.
B.
I'm the Managing Director of my It's a consulting company specialized in hotels to optimize revenue processes and people.
And last but not least, Tom.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me again. My name is Thomas Finn, and I'm the Managing Director of Edwards and Finn, which is a specialist revenue management and wider commercial analytics recruitment firm, and also the host of ENF TV. So thanks for having me again.
Tom, everyone is so familiar with you over the last one, especially because, you know, you've been really championing recruitment, especially during the pandemic. You've really stepped up and you've changed your model and work in regards to how you actually deal with even payments from clients, which is very, very interesting. And it's always a nice breath of fresh air to see, especially recruitment companies trying to help people rather than just help themselves. So I definitely think you need a round of applause from everyone virtually on that one, a big pat on the back. But now I'm going to pass everything over to Suzanne, who is going to crack on with everything today. Great show. Looking forward to all your questions. Make sure you use the chat box. We are live on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, obviously, clearly.
Okay, so first and foremost, we've got some new Revenue Hacks merchandise. If you're a mega fan of the show, most people that comment will be sent a Revenue Hacks mug. The second thing I'm just going to say is we're talking today about personal branding. It's about what employers look for when they're looking for you online. Now, if you'd like us to test that and you're quite prepared to share what you've got online, pop your name in the comments and we'll do an online search and we'll show at the end of the show what we find. Who's brave enough? I can already tell you that I've done a little search on some of our regular viewers. So if you want to know what we found, stay tuned. Yes, they all look nervous. And Julie.
Suzanne has actually tested this as well on the team today, by the way. It was something I was not expecting. And as soon as I seen it, it's my first words were, what? I'm not that type of person. And I was like, oh yeah, no, actually I can see through. It is quite scary. And it is the world that we live in right now. So I definitely think this is a really, really cool way to find out what your personality is and how you resonate with people.
It's yeah, just watch this space. Okay, so today we're talking about personal branding and what it means to you, why it's important now, and Tom's going to give us some top tips. But before we get to that, Tom, tell us what you think, your views on personal branding for 2021, taking into consideration that everything's now moved online.
Yeah, it's actually something that we've actually spoken about quite a lot, but in a completely different context, to be fair. But I think with regards to, let's look at it, because obviously I'm looking at it from a very candidate-driven point of view. And that personal branding now, more than ever, is so important. Absolutely. It is everything, because otherwise, and I've said this before, you are just a white piece of paper with black writing on it, without any real personality, without any professionalism. And personal branding, that element to your, it's like the biggest weapon in your arsenal or your biggest tool in your toolbox. it's going to be everything. It's your image, your presence, your authority within your specialism. Personal branding has to be on point. And we're obviously going to be coming on to a lot of top tips about it, but you have to be on it in 2021. 2020, I think a lot of people talked about it, but 2021, if it's not there, you're already way behind the curve.
Amazing. Chris, what does personal branding mean to you, and what do you look for when you're looking for new staff?
Well, first of all, I definitely think this year is now the focus on what you can do in yourself. We always used to sell ourselves. Let's be honest, we all sold ourselves when we were going into an interview. However, it's actually putting the knowledge you have into perspective while you're selling yourself. You can no longer go into an interview and say, I can do this, I can do that, I can do the other. You need to actually put the numbers behind and the metrics behind it. And you need to have really good examples. And I think now more than ever, it's kind of like we're in an impersonalized world as well. So although interviews are still slightly personal and slightly professional, we are all carrying out our interviews via Zoom. So, you know, it's about how you conduct yourself on a Zoom, because sometimes people just forget that we can actually see our faces and we can read you even though you're on screen. At the moment, we are actually employing people for 2 of our new opening hotels. We are looking for a sales manager actively here in Ireland for a new property in Dublin. The one thing I am looking for is a good base of sales. It doesn't have to be hospitality sales, essentially. However, you do need to have a good working knowledge of a sales element of a role and also marketing. Now, we are very particular also in regards to longevity in a role, because again, hospitality people move day to day, and that's totally fine. We understand that. However, we want someone who has that experience that maybe has been in a role for about a year and a half. I think the whole thing of 5 to 10 years experience in a role is gone, and I really, really wish recruiters would stop using it. 100%. I don't know how many times I've even applied for a job, probably including the job I'm in at the moment, who said you need to have 5 to 10 years experience. Wake up, people. I'm 10 years in the industry this year. Last year, I think. So, you know, it's one of these things. I know I'm still a baby, but you know what I mean? I'm always going to be the youngest as well, for sure. My husband is older, so I've always thought of it.
The question I've got then is the personal branding aspect of that, but when you're researching for, how does that influence the decisions you make? So if you see someone's Twitter feed or you're looking on Instagram and you've got, you know, how does that influence the decisions you make when you're researching for that job?
I think it's actually quite interesting when you're looking at someone for a sales element that they are quite busy on the social media sphere, and that they do have an understanding of hashtags. You can actually gain that information from actually looking at them, be it on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. I think there's certain elements, though, of posts that people have done over the past while that you need to kind of put to the back of your mind, because again, you know, 10 years ago when Instagram, Facebook, or when Facebook especially came out, people were very young. You know, you need to think of that space. I was posting trash on Facebook, all about science and working in college and like geeky stuff, okay? If someone went back and seen that, they'd probably be like, no, sorry, she's too vanilla for us. However, you know, you need to look at how people have changed through the years. And I think it's that element that you need to be able to assess. And you're able to see how people adapt as well, especially during the pandemic. So you can actually see their life prior and how they've adapted now. Some people are no longer traveling, obviously, but, you know, they've taken up different elements. So they're gone, you know, full into fitness or full into cooking. And that shows dedication to a particular thing, not just necessity or posting just for random likes.
You know, with you being a consultant, then your professional image online has to be absolutely top notch. So how do you control and manage that? And then what do you look for? Do you have a look at your clients and see what kind of personalities and profiles they have online?
Yeah, it's really something that I've looked at quite a lot in the past, but I realized it was even more and more important when I created my company, because you realize that like lots of people that are in their job and they're happy, they're not updating any of their social media, they don't care about it, whereas actually you're still an active person there, and you can still attract maybe your next employer, or maybe someone from like a sales that wants to really like get in touch with you. And you need to have the right information wherever you talk, basically wherever you are online. So that's quite important. And when you build your business, this is the same. typically, I'm not on Twitter. I'm super bad at that. I should probably, but instead of having something that is half done, I was like, let's just forget about it, because I don't want to appear there and not being relevant enough, for example. So, and then you pick and choose whatever network you want to do, and you need to like have the right information and update it depending on what you want to target and who you want to target on the different social media or so. You can't have your LinkedIn showing something and your cover letter or whatever saying something else. That doesn't match. People are going to check up online and they're going to look, the CV I have is not the same CV as the information that is on LinkedIn. What is that basically? And that's I think that's really, really important to. Sometimes it's even better to put less and then to explain or to put it in a blog or in different articles or show with your activity who you are really, rather than just put different information everywhere, people are looking at different places. So it's quite important to be consistent wherever you are.
That's a really important point I think you made there, B. Tom, I'm quite interested in your thoughts on people's authority, creating authority in the space, and how that contributes to what an employee will look and see when they're with a candidate that's quite active and is publishing blog posts and giving insights and establishing their space. Does that influence an employer's decision into who they decide to bring forward for interview?
Massively. I in fact, I've actually got a very recent example of it. So I was submitting a candidate for a job, and I was including actually their episode of sort of appearing on my show, but they'd also appeared on a podcast. So all I did was basically take the link from that podcast, incorporate it into my email to the client to say, look, this guy's really great. Not only is he doing this to proactively get in the driver's seat of his job search, but he's also appearing on all these different podcasts. He's writing articles, he's getting involved, and he's unemployed at the moment. A lot of people fall into this trap of, well, it's the whole apply now button. I'll apply now and then I'll wait for a response. I'll apply now and I'll wait for that response. If you get in front of it and you then become the person that is that authority in that area, I'm going to be honest, guys, as well. From my perspective, I think B's massively on a point there is consistency. I, as a business, like B, am a relatively small consultancy. Therefore, my personal branding is massive. It has to be consistent, because if it's not on all my different platforms, there will be question marks. Is he really doing that? Is he really doing this? Does he really know his stuff? It's one of these things where consistency is key. Personal branding comes into every element of it. But I suppose with regards to, the sort of visibility and being an authority within your industry, if you're not active and involved in your industry and you're not passionate about it, why would an employer ever think twice about you? There is just a massive question.
So what about the personal aspect of it? Do you think that personal views and opinions, because these are posted on social media, and I think particularly Twitter, and that can be quite alarmist, I guess, for some employers. How important is controlling that narrative?
Again, I know I touched on this sort of a little earlier, but we're not going towards the area of censorship. That's not the aim here. What we have to do is be conscious about the platforms that we're posting on, the audience that we've got, and be conscious about in some cases, the content itself, the language in it being used. Everything is taken at face value on social media. People scroll all day. They spend hours on social media. Your image is what they see. It is as simple as that. You do not have an opportunity to say, oh, well, that was because of this, and this other person said that. You don't have an opinion there. Your image is what is seen. And I think, in my opinion, it is a massive controlling factor in a decision-making situation. If I've got a number of candidates and one of them is blatantly, let's say very active, but let's put it nicely, very passionate about certain situations, could that rub my employees up the wrong way? Could the culture within my business be disrupted almost? I would say massively. Yes, of course it would. So you have to be conscious of it.
Okay, so on that note, I think that you've got some top tips that you'd like to share with us just on the journey. If you want to go ahead and do that, just whilst Tom shares the screen, if anyone that's watching has got any questions or any tips or experience that you'd like to share, please do put it in the comments, and we'll certainly discuss it and share your own experience. We've got a question here already from Erica about how you keep your social media knowledge up to date to ensure that your personal branding is relevant. I think that's a really good question. So yeah, let's get stuck into it, Tom. I'm going to show you this is the technical bit. The technical.
And by the way, should I just signal when the next slide should come? Should I just sort of okay. Yeah. Okay, so everybody that's watching, obviously, thank you to the hosts on Review Hacks for allowing me to come on today. The reason that this is so important, as I said previously, is because everybody spoke about personal branding. They spoke about what they wanted to do on their social medias and become this brilliant person within their industry. And it was all sort of talk, but very little actually happened. Whereas this year, there is no option. It is a necessity. You have to do it. Otherwise, you will be at a disadvantage to everybody that does. It is as simple as that. There is no argument. There's nothing to it. You either do it or you don't. And I say do it. So the things that we're going to be touching on is going to be based all around getting you back into the driver's seat of your job search. I say this to every single one of my candidates. I even said it to somebody today who I know is actually dialed into this. It's about being in the driver's seat of your job search. Do not leave it into the hands of a recruiter like me. Do not leave it in the hands of potential employers who post jobs. Get into the driver's seat of your job search and start being proactive about what you're doing. Now, it all starts with personal branding. We'll be coming on to what employers will see when they're searching you, and we'll talk about the detective work that goes on behind that. The online content itself, so what you're posting, when you're posting it, and knowing your audience. So you have to understand the people that are going to be tapping into this. And finally, your social media management. I think there's a lot of sort of smoke and mirrors about social media management and how best to go about it and so on. And I'm just going to be giving a few top tips. So that's a bit of an overview. So I guess let's kick straight into it. So starting off with personal branding. So personal branding is more important than ever. This is something I said right at the start of this, and it's true. I can't see anybody putting an argument to that. But what is it? What exactly is personal branding? How does it work? Personal branding, in a nutshell, is basically you creating but also developing your online presence. It's you becoming an authority or establishing yourself as an authority within your sector. That's what this is all about. It's understanding who you are, what you're great at, and making it very clear to people. Why is it so important? As we've already said in the last sort of 5-10 minutes, it's you. At the end of the day, you do not want to be in that situation where you are just a white piece of paper with black writing and a CV in somebody's inbox. If that is your situation right now, change it. And I mean that with all sincerity, change that today. After this workshop, get off your, whatever else you're doing, fix what you've got going on. The reason it's obviously so important is because this is what people see. This is potential employers. This is potential industry leaders. This is anybody that could potentially be recruiting down the line. Maybe it's not today, maybe it's not tomorrow, but it could be in 3 or 4 months. And if you're somebody that is active and somebody who is seen as a professional, you will be getting those messages, you'll be getting those calls, and you'll be getting replies to your applications. How do we do it? There's loads of different ways of doing this across all your platforms. I know that people who are generally tapped into this, you'll have a LinkedIn for sure. You'll have Instagram, possibly. You'll have Facebook. You'll have Twitter. All these different platforms build a picture of who you are. Now, if you want to come across as professional as possible, of course, we always start with LinkedIn. That's your professional circle. That's your window to the professional world, I suppose, within your sector. That's where you have to be on it every single day. You have to be active. With regards to your other social media platforms, your Instagram and your Twitter and your Facebook, these are where you can have a slightly more personal approach. It's your area that you can feel comfortable, where you post regularly. It could be food. I know that all of us on here, we love posting about our food. We love posting about our dogs, or we love posting about, our lifestyles or whatever it is. That's where we can talk about that sort of stuff.
Wine.
Exactly that.
Funny.
But this is what it's all about. That's where you can start bringing your personality into it, as well as LinkedIn. But it's about having an all-encompassing approach, and as B said very correctly, consistency. You can't say one thing on one area. It's like having an opinion on LinkedIn because that's your professional domain, and somebody clicking onto your Instagram and you going completely the opposite way. There's no consistency there. There's no transparency. There's no authenticity, if you like. So that's how we do it. If we move on to the next slide. So, what employers see. Now, as I've put here, the detective work that goes behind the scenes, I suppose, the detective work that goes into making the decision whether to actually get you in for an interview. Now, it could either be the employer themselves, so the potential employer, the line manager or whatever that takes the time, or they could have somebody else within the business that does it for them. But they will be digging. Make no mistake. In this day and age, don't ever believe that they're just going off your CV and maybe having a look at your LinkedIn profile. They are digging, and they are digging deep, as Suzanne has made very clear. So yes, they will be digging. They will be looking for things, and they will be trying to identify who you are. This is not for them to pick you apart. This is not for them to say, oh my God, no, they're awful, or did they really do that? Or looking at your pictures and judging you. Yes, as a human being, we are quick to judge people, and social media, whether we like it or not, is based on judgment. We judge people on what they do, on how they do it, on what they say, on where they go, and all the rest of it. But it's the fact of understanding who you are as an individual. So what they might be looking for is your personality, how great you are, what you get up to at the weekends. Are you a great cook? Do you go to the gym? Do you love going outside and going for walks and so on? Because there could be relatable stuff within the business where we've got loads of people that love doing outdoor activities. We've got loads of people that love to cook. That could merge quite well. It's all about understanding who you are. Now,
Tom, can I just jump in there? Because I think one of the things that's really alarming about the social media platforms and your personal branding is that actually we've turned ourselves into a commodity, haven't we? Not only is it our skill set that's up for sale, you know, for an employer, but it's also our personalities and our lifestyle. So I think that actually really is more reason where the control and what you have as private and public has to really, you know, those controls have to be strong. Yeah,
it's one of these things where, again, it's never about the censorship element. It's not about you closing yourself off, shutting everything down, and not being the person that you are. That's not what this is about. It's about making sure that you know your audience. Now, for an example, just to go off piece a little bit here, but just for an example, my platforms are LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and very recently TikTok. Now, for me, TikTok was a brand new thing. Another recruiter who I appeared on his show said, you have to. It's going to be the future. It's brilliant. Your engagement will go up, blah, 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 blah. Now, what I realized was my, really sort of high-level corporate style videos that I was posting on there, they weren't quite right. They weren't getting the engagement that I think I probably wanted because I don't understand that audience yet. The YouTube, the LinkedIn, and the sort of the Instagram side of it, I would like to think that I've sort of got it on point, but it's all about that learning curve. And that's what this workshop's all about. It's just trying to understand how to manipulate and use effectively utilization of the social media networks that you've got. Because let's be honest, they are incredibly valuable. They are the thing, as I said before, the window to your potential next employment. I would say, yes, we have turned ourselves into a commodity, for better or for worse. And I think we've all almost accepted that fact, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, it's a very fine line. I don't know what you guys think about that, but it's a very fine line.
I think it's a fine line. It's definitely a fine line, but the point about the different platforms, I think, is really, really key here. I think if an employer is looking for you across the different platforms and seeing different things, then it looks like you've actually got quite a good handle on what your personal branding is. Yeah. So I've been around the block so many times, and I'm quite old and I've got quite a lot of years in hospitality. So for me, my platform, I know where my audience hang out, and that's on Twitter. So my engagement on Twitter is great. I have lots of conversations there, and that's where the hoteliers are. So I feel quite at ease communicating and chatting on Twitter really authentically, whereas Instagram, it's all about adventure, you know, and images and skiing. And, you know, so I think understanding each of those social platforms and what you use them for. My Facebook is private. That's always going to be private. End of. So knowing the channels and where your audience are hanging out, I think is quite an important point for people that are looking to refine, especially those in the job market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I just want to, go ahead, Christina, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm going. It's fine.
Well, I was just going to say, again, this is not about employers picking you apart. This is about employers establishing whether you could be great for the job. This is about them doing their own research to find out a little bit deeper. And that's something to be celebrated. That's not something to be feared. The fact that people are doing that shows that they have interest. If they weren't interested in you as a candidate, you would have already got you'd hopefully have already got a communication to say, look, we're not going to be progressing you. The fact that they're doing the work that goes behind deciding whether you get that interview or not, that's a huge positive. And the fact that we've gone into this culture of utilizing these platforms to identify these aspects is brilliant. And that's something to be remembered. This is not something to be feared or to have anxiety about, oh God, they're going to be looking on my social media. I need to start deleting posts. I need to start doing this. That's not what this is all about. It's about embracing what they're going to be doing and understanding the sort of practice behind it. So no, go ahead, Christine, because I know I cut you off.
No, it's okay. I actually think using social media is great because obviously it allows for you to see how creative a person is, but also is the information that's on their CV correct? You know, I could put down that I run, I cycle, I do X, Y, and Z, I'm an advocate for Irish language, but do I actually resonate that across my Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, everything? Now, I only post on Facebook once in a blue moon to wish everyone happy Christmas and happy New Year. That's just it. I think the one thing people need to be mindful of is that, you know, this whole clicking a link. So if you link all your social media together and that link appears in your Twitter account, you know, that's pointless. You should have established a separate link, a separate kind of post in that sphere. Like Suzanne, I'm super active on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and I'm always very active on Twitter. Like Twitter is if I go into my well-being on my phone, it's going to tell me I've probably been there about 3 hours on average every second or third day if I'm off. Especially over Christmas, it was probably worse. But, you know, that's where I can be me, I can be cool, I could be, you know, establish really great relationships with a hospitality specialist, but not just that, but with kind of other people that have the same interests that I'm actually friends with and pals with. Whereas Instagram is a picture of your life. It's a picture of what you do. If anyone looked at it, it's all just food, walking, running, wine. That's just it. You know, that doesn't really tell a picture of me. So I would like to think that if someone was doing the deep down in the background, you know, they'd look at it and go, okay, that's okay. She's got that on her CV, but what else is she an advocate of? What else is she pushing on other spheres? Don't do TikTok. Sorry, that's not my thing. And I'll be the first one. I can't see myself jumping around doing a video for 10 minutes on how to sell a hotel.
No.
I'm not good at that. We have someone in the room here that is very good at that, but it's not me. I can tell you for sure. But I think from a privacy point of view, if you make everything private today after this conversation, that only sparks alarm bells with recruiters because you were actually public at one stage. And you must remember, unless you put in an email to Google and you do the right to be forgotten thing, everything's always going to be there anyways. So if your name is tagged in a picture, if I put your name into Google, that picture is going to come up in the images, or that video is going to come up online because YouTube or someone else would have picked up your TikTok or something else at some stage with you in it.
I'm not so sure, you know, Christine. I think if someone doesn't want to be on social media, that's fine. And I'll never judge someone for not being there. I'll judge someone.
Oh, no, I wouldn't either.
Information
That's
is
not judging.
It's not the same, but in reality, I mean, you need to show what you feel is the best and what you want to show to your recruiter. It can be only bonus point if, as you were saying, you're cycling and the person is also cycling. They'll be like, oh, but it shouldn't be, for me, it shouldn't be a deal breaker, except if I see some stuff where I'm like, whoa, hold on a second, this person is really weird. But it's almost never going to happen. It's just helping the conversation, basically, and help bond with the person, I'd say, rather than anything else. But if you're not there, if you never post anything, and I think Erica's asking, like, honestly, I think that's not an issue. You just need to be true to yourself, basically.
Yeah,
Can I-
and again,
can I-
it's this
Sorry, Tom.
authenticity, isn't it? I was going to say, it's just coming back to that authenticity. If you're not somebody who is active on these platforms, then don't try to do something that isn't you. If you are, and you're really trying, and you're trying to figure out ways, and you even go to the point, you know, I remember, I'm going again, sort of something private to mine. I've got a private Instagram page that is purely photography, and I know that, you know, one or two of you are on that one. And it's slightly different, completely different, in fact, to what I do in my my professional life. That's private, but I would obviously utilize and focus on algorithms, time of posting, looking at hashtags, the trends, and so on and so forth. That was from a very targeted industry point of view. Whereas if it's not something that you would do on a regular basis, like Christina and I had a conversation on Instagram very recently about she was cooking something and then she was keeping the, you know, all the leftovers, nothing goes to waste. You gain that sort of conversation, and that is who we are. That is what we do. There was nothing orchestrated or fake about that. I saw something I was interested in and I commented on it. That's what this has to be all about. Don't ever be somebody that you are not, because that will be seen immediately through any platform. It doesn't matter what you're on. If you're trying to be something you're not, it will shine through at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I think the other important thing just to raise here is that you've got those, you know, you've got your personal social media channels, and then you've got your professional channels. And when you're job searching, I think being active and authoritative in the professional channel space is where you should be diverting your attention. I think always be mindful and authentic on your social channels, because that's going to feed in. But when you've got a purpose, and that purpose is to find a job, then your why, your own personal why, what have I got to contribute, and what's my reason for being, and how will that impact the job that I'm looking for, I think should be considered. I think you know me, I'm always going to bring it down to a little mini strategy, and I think that little personal branding is also going to be a little mini strategy. So
it is. It's almost, I know some people that put timelines on it. I know some people sort of say, right, twice a week I'm going to post on a Tuesday and a Thursday, or some people try and post at least once a week, or they try and get involved in at least this many conversations, or they try and join as many groups or whatever. People have a seriously targeted approach. In fact, in some cases, it probably would be classed as a strategy. Others are very much organic with it. They kind of go, okay, well, I'm going to log in today. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Again, I think it's all sort of down to what works for them. But I think if we're talking specifically about a job search, if you don't have a strategy in place, or you don't have some sort of formality to it, I think you're missing a trick. I do think that you're missing something there.
So if there's anyone that's watching that wants to participate in a little online experiment, I think, Andrew, if you're still watching, we could maybe share just a little insight. I think Louise was here, but if there's anyone watching now that is prepared to put themselves forward for a little search experiment, pop your name in the comments. Andrew, you did say earlier that you were up for this, so I have had a little look at you. So if you're happy, I shall share that. But in the meantime, let me just go and I'll give you a little example of what the first thing that an employer can see when they jump on your LinkedIn profile, if you're me.
The other thing I'd like to say, if I could be so bold as well, is anybody who is tuned in right now, and I know I'm overstepping my mark a little bit, you guys are the hosts, sorry, but anybody that is sort of dialed in right now, and they do have some sort of strategy to their online presence that you think is really interesting, you think somebody else could benefit from in the comments, please do put it in. I'd love to hear what people do and how they structure it and how they go about it, because if somebody does have a great strategy that's working for them, I have no doubt there'll be loads of people out there that would love to hear it.
Share it, Suzanne.
Yeah, it's running. Thomas Finn obviously has lots and lots and lots of online activity, so it's spinning. But what I
God!
So
you had to go for me, didn't you?
It's always the joy of. But what I will do is I'll share the screen that this platform is linked to. Now, let me. You guys can talk amongst yourselves whilst I just pull this information up.
I think actually using social media to propel yourself is a very smart way, especially if you're job hunting. We've seen really good versions of this, especially in Ireland. There was actually one person, he's actually now runs a, if I'm not mistaken, Paddy Power picked him up as their marketing specialist. He stood in Houston Station, which is like the biggest train station in the country, with a sign saying, I came back from Australia, Ireland is in a recession, I'm a qualified sales and marketing specialist, I have this amount of experience, hire me, you will not make a mistake. Paddy Power picked him up, if I'm not mistaken, and then it just went from there. Now he actually runs a successful alcohol beverage company that actually supply whiskey and poitín, which is like our Irish drink. That will absolutely kill you, by the way. It's like really potent. To across the world. Set up this company himself, and he's actually worked with a lot of big companies since then. So, you know, doing something like that, if you're really in that way, is good. I'm sorry, I'm going to put it out there, and Tom, you can scold me all you want. I absolutely despise this whole thing at the moment that LinkedIn have, where I'm open for work. Everyone's open for work. We are always all looking for new jobs. It doesn't matter, even if you're in your job 5 years, 10 years, 2 days, you're happy in your job. There's always options there. And I hate that everyone is just ticking that one box at the moment on LinkedIn saying, I'm open for work. That's great. And asking for help, that's also great. Yeah, but tell us what you want to do. Tell us if you want to move into a new direction. Tell us something apart from that little generic text, I'm open for work.
Yeah, this is
I don't know if you can see my screen. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Right. So can everyone see the screen? So basically this morning, I just took Tom, Chris and Bea and had a little search on my, I use this platform for sales, recruitment and just general stalking, really. And it's called Crystal Knows. What Crystal Knows does.
Have you been stalking me?
Well, I'm using But this is the kind of thing that employers can do. So I use this as an extension on LinkedIn, so that whenever I land on a LinkedIn profile, it will give me a breakdown of your personality and your professional approach. So this is the platform that sits behind it. It's taken too long to load on LinkedIn, but this is what you can see. And it's basically, it's a personality profile, but what it does, so you can see that Tom, you're an initiator, how to sell to Tom, how to demo a product to Tom, how to schedule a meeting, how to call. And it's a guide on how best to get the most out of your conversation or interview with Tom. Now, you can scroll all the way down and it gives you little quick tips. I want to call Thomas, make a sales pitch, and it gives you advice. Then you can see, and this is where it gets quite interesting from an employer-employee relationship. If you're looking for a senior manager and how they will fit into your team, you can build out that personality comparison to see where all their skill sets sit. Now, this took me 10 minutes earlier to pull this together, and I've done it for Tom, Chris, and Bea. And what this platform does is that any public information that's out there that's linked to your email address, it pulls in, looks at your LinkedIn, and then pulls this profile together. You can then share the links to see how accurate it is. You can pull teams together to see where everything sits. So 10 minutes, it isn't expensive, and this is the kind of detail that employers are going to be getting when they look for you. So you can see here, you know, Tom, you're a little bit more risk tolerant than I am. Oh, look, you're more trusting. You're more optimistic.
Suzanne, I just think the whole autonomous thing is quite hilarious. Look where you are on that. Also dominant.
So
whatever you do offline in your own time is your own thing, Suzanne.
Let's just on that point go here, filter, so we can see Revenue Hacks team. There we go, Chris.
She's skeptical.
Yeah, I'm skeptical. This is what shocked me. I'm like, really? I love the way you all laugh. I would never have thought that. I've taken Franklin Covey's out the door and I've never come back to skeptical.
Yeah, like Sylvia is saying, this is really the big brother. It's pretty scary, but it's very interesting because there's a difference between what you think you are and what you actually show online. And you can, you can trick that in reality if you manage to put the right words, etc., into your LinkedIn, for example, which should be something that we need to be aware of. There's the sites like 16 personalities. This is what you are because you answer that, and there's how you perceived online, and that's quite important. Like a boss once told me, like, do you know what people think about you at work? And I was like, yeah, I'm great. And he was like, maybe we should ask people.
That's not the response we want.
It was quite interesting because, we talk about those 360, which are not necessarily the right format, etc. But once in a while, ask people around you what they think about you, or what and you'll be surprised. And especially in an environment like us, where it's very multicultural, and let's put it like that, like a Brit will react completely differently than a French or an American. And sometimes something that for me seems normal, like, yeah, that's straightforward, let's go for it. I was perceived super pushy and whatever word I had, but it's just like, you need to be self-aware, and sometimes we're completely wrong about that, and social media and all the platforms can show it pretty quickly. That's scary.
Yeah.
So I think Andrew's just commented here that he's quite happy for us to share his what we found about Andrew. So Andrew, I'm just going to share my screen and let's see. So there we've got Andrew Jenkins. He's fast-paced, goal-oriented and direct, appreciating brevity and efficiency. You're committed, competitive and direct. So your profile is the architect. Now, stick in the comments, Andrew, if you think this is accurate. You're comfortable with conflict. You like productive arguments. And then if you're selling to Andrew, tough questions, issue a challenge. Address potential problems and solutions, be assertive and direct. Andrew, you might fit right into revenue hacks. Let's just say that.
You can see the screen, Suzanne.
We can't see your screen.
Oh, you can't see. Oh, goodness. Right, there we go. Are you ready? Live broadcasting is always a challenge. So there we go, Andrew. Fast-paced, goal-oriented, architect. And this is, what employers are seeing when they're using Crystal Knows. And the thing is that I've also got the Google Chrome extension for this, and when I'm typing an email, if I'm emailing Andrew, the text will be auto-corrected if I'm using something that will jar with the personality profile that sits in Crystal Knows. So it really is quite detailed, how to negotiate with Andrew, how to discuss pricing. So it's fabulous. How to say no.
I was going to say, just for anybody that's going to be applying for a role on here with Susan anytime soon, just be wary. She has got every tool imaginable.
I think the other thing that's just worth saying is it's really brilliant for sales. When you're in a sales environment and you really want to, you've got important pitches coming up, just doing that little bit of research about your audience and who you're talking to, I think really makes a difference. So I think for everyone watching, it's just being mindful that these are the kind of tools that are out there now. I think Louise mentioned Glassdoor. Yeah. So Louise mentioned Glassdoor, which is like slightly different because that's a review site for your employers. But this is a little bit more, I guess it's a little bit scary that people can find that much information out about you.
I don't believe in Glassdoor anymore. It's like TripAdvisor. I just think people put up job reviews. You always find that there's always going to be some sort of disgruntled employee who fell out with them and puts up that really nasty review. We've seen it over the years. It doesn't matter who it is. It can be the biggest tech company or else it can be the smallest company in the world. And that can have an impact. People can get something into their head and it's not their fault. However, they just don't really think before they engage in the world. And I think that's something that we all need to be very mindful, as Tom said, was, you need to actually think before you engage on social media the majority of the time, because a lot of this can come back to haunt you in a way. And we're seeing that. Politicians, sports stars, all these different things. You've seen how Black Lives Matter has really been pushed the focal point because of social media. These are things that people never really thought would ever come back. Never really thought at the time as well, because they could have been quite young and it was just being expressive. And we're now in that world where we don't really engage our brain before we use our mouth. So more than ever now, I'm kind of actually focusing, kind of using on what my dad used to always say, always do this before this. Doesn't always work. doesn't. But, you know, it's, you know, I'm the first one to say it, but you think you do need to think more so next.
Yeah.
So I guess that kind of, we're going to bring the episode to an end now and kind of wrap it up. I think the thing that I will say is if anybody wants this profile done, share the episode on all of your social platforms and hashtag revenue hacks, and I will do your little deep dive and send you the link. So yes, you can go to work. Any final thoughts from anyone before we close down?
I got one. Just for anybody watching this at the moment, be authentic, be active, show interest, and be who you are. There's one thing that I am so glad that we've actually had a bit more of an open conversation, is that we need to bring the human element back into what we do in all elements. We need to work alongside tech, don't get me wrong, but we need to get our personality, our character, our who we are back into the front of what we're doing. So be active, be passionate, you know, do all these things. And if anybody's dialed into this and wants to talk about how they can go about being more active and get a bit more success in terms of their job search, I'm more than happy. I'm always up for having a conversation with anybody. So drop me a message in my LinkedIn and just give me a call, because I'm always happy to have a chat.
Awesome. Chris,
I think it's stay relevant. Stay relevant is really important. You know, I know that we're all going through a situation at the moment where we're either job hunting or else we're just on furlough. Stay relevant in your posting, stay relevant in your market, and be true to yourself. If you are a big food advocate, you or whatever, do that, push it. That's great. That can be what you do on your off time. But remember, your LinkedIn is a professional social place. So don't be afraid to be active and slightly controversial there, just like we all are.
Yeah, the same. Just making sure that that everything is relevant and that you portrayed yourself the way you want to be seen also. That's quite important, that you're in control of your image. I mean, we all tell that to our niece, nephews, kids, whoever, like, no, you're not going to be on this media, etc. Like, put it for yourself. Like, what do you want to show? And don't complain about it if someone judged you for something because they've seen something. So it's quite important to be in control of that.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So I think the last one for me is always invest in yourself. So broaden those skills and invest in yourself. And on that note, next week's episode will be about a little masterclass on introducing paid advertising and what acquisition, how to get started. If you're a revenue manager, digital and acquisition can seem like it's a dark art. So we'll be giving an overview of that next week. So do tune in then. Thanks everyone for watching, and don't forget to share. Chris?
Suzanne, you didn't pick out who won the mug.
Oh yeah.
Oh, right. Goodness, I can't do that. There's millions of comments.
You are the one who actually mentioned this today. I didn't realize we were going to go with this today, so you have to pick.
I tell you what, I'll announce it on our Revenue Hacks Instagram. So make sure you're following us there. How's that?
Nice. Okay. I like that.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks everyone. We'll see you next week. Thanks, Tom.
Bye.
Thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.